steel your hearts. Let the Emperor guide your arm, and let faith harden your sinews. These heretics have abandoned any right to live by turning from his light. They stain his realm by their continued existence. Tear them down in the name of Saint Mina. By Arjula Carton, a canoness preceptor of the Order of the Bloody Rose. The Order of the Bloody Rose is one of the major orders militant of the ADEPTA Sororitas, or the Sisters of Battle, founded in honor of Saint Mina by the Ecclesiarch Diakes VI in the middle of the 38th millennium. They are based on the cardinal world of Ophelia VII within the Convent Sanctorum. The Order also operates a full preceptory of battle sisters at the Shrine of the 17 Martyrs near the hive world of Malfi, in response to brewing religious conflicts in the Drusus Marches, a subsector of the Calixis sector, located in the Segmentum Obscurus. Though the Order of the Bloody Rose has committed a significant contingent of its sisters to war zones along the Great Rift since the dawn of the era Indomitus, the majority of its forces are battling against incursions coming from the galactic south. They have met the tendrils of Hive Fleet Leviathan and Hive Fleet Hydra on multiple fronts, where they have butchered the ravenous creatures and the gene-stealer cults that worship them. They have also fought a series of harrowing battles against the Thousand Sons Traitor Legion's cult of duplicity, combating the sorcerous machinations of the Tzeentch worshippers with bolt, blade, and faith. The Order's history. The matriarch of the Order of the Bloody Rose is Saint Mina, who was as renowned for her dark, brooding nature as she was for her deadly skill in battle. What few records survive through the Reign of Blood suggest that she served as Alicia Dominica's champion, and that when the reformer Sebastian Thor's armies descended upon Terra, she slew some of the mightiest invading warriors in hand-to-hand combat. One account, albeit riddled with inconsistencies, suggests that she dueled with the leader of the custodians who entered the ecclesiastical palace during the siege, and that the two fought to a standstill before words of an alliance were finally spoken. Whether true or not, the Sisters of the Bloody Rose revere Mina as the epitome of the martial virtues laid out by the daughters of the Emperor, and dedicate themselves to emulating her violent prowess. The Order was not formally created until 2.5 Terran millennia after the founding of the ADEPTA Sororitas. By this time, its patron, Saint Mina, was long dead. She had been one of the 5 original companions of the founder and patron of the ADEPTA Sororitas. She was known as dark and brooding, quick to anger, and deadly in combat. In the late 36th millennium, she was martyred at the hands of a sanguinary chaos cult, the agents of which are said to have ambushed her at prayer in a small shrine on Hydrathar. None of her sisters were present, but it is said that when they came upon her body, the entire shrine was covered in the blood of her assailants, a score of at least 20, which lay dead around her own blood-drained form. The Order of the Bloody Rose first existed as a small group of sisters who provided a bodyguard for the abbess of the ADEPTA Sororitas, and it was from this group that the new Major Order Militant was formed. From their first War of Faith, the Sisters of the Bloody Rose made a name for themselves as brutal executioners. They were dispatched to the Nephilim sector to put down the Slaneshi pain cults that had transformed many Imperial Shrine worlds into planet-spanning torture chambers. Hospitallers of the Order of Serenity and Dialogi of the Order of the Quill followed in the wake of the Sisters of Battle, where they were to tend to bodies and souls of the faithful after the afflicted worlds had been liberated by the Bloody Rose. But when the non-militant orders arrived in the war zone, they found only death. The militant sisters had moved from planet to planet, mercilessly butchering the cultists they encountered without stopping to free the imprisoned. Many Adeptus Monasterium adepts, as well as several captured Sisters of the Bloody Rose, have been left to languish in the cult's hellish dungeons while the Order hunted down the heretics. When the last of the Slanesh worshippers had been eradicated, the Canoness Superior of the Bloody Rose, who upon her death would become canonized as Saint Mari, penned the Thorn Treatise, using the blood of those sisters who had fallen to record the teachings of this war. In the treatise, she outlined that the path of least evil lies always with the swift extirpation of those who oppose the faith, and therefore mercy in any form must come after the meting out of righteous anger. And now, here are some of the most notable campaigns the Order took part in. The Theric Suppression in 85 M41. The entire Order, over 24 squads of Battle Sisters, participated in the Theric Suppression, the purging of the blasphemous chaos cult Epicurean on the hive world of Therics. Additional support during the suppression was provided to the Sisters by a delegation of the Adeptus Monasterium, led by Inquisitor Lord Scallan and Battle Group Purgator. The Imperial forces were also composed of 3 separate Space Marine chapters: the Mentors, the Nova Marines, and the Subjugators, as well as a regiment of the 808th Mordant Regiment of the Imperial Guard. The Sisters of the Order were instrumental in scouring the hive world of all heretics. The defense of Dimmermar in 858 M41. Dimmermar, the birth world of the reforming ecclesiarch Sebastian Thor, came under attack from the Eldari of craft world Ulthware in 845 M41 without any warning or reason. Seraphim Superior Imelda of the Order of the Bloody Rose retaliated, leading her squad of Seraphim in a daring attack to slay the enemy commander, the Farseer Cowerith. The Seraphim's pistols blasted a bloody path through a score of black-clad Eldari before the Sisters were engulfed in a hurricane of psychic lightning. Though many of her companions fell, Imelda refused to yield and defiantly advanced through the eldritch storm, slaying the Eldari Farseer with a single bolt round to the head. The 13th Black Crusade, the defense of Hive Superior in 999 M41. During the dark times of the 13th Black Crusade, the Order sent forces to the long-ignored Trail of Saint Evissa, which had been increasingly troubled by chaos-inspired uprisings and cultic activities linked to Gargatuloth, the Prince of 1,000 Faces, a powerful demon of the Chaos God known as Tzeentch. Following the orders of Cardinal Rakoba, the temporal and spiritual power on Vulcanis Ultor, the Sisters of Battle were deployed near Hive Superior, the world's capital, to man its outer defenses on the shores of the Great Lake Rapax. Unknowingly manipulated by one of Gargatulos' agents, the renegade Inquisitor Golik Rensa Valinov, the Sisters of Battles fought against the Grey Knights dispatched by the Ordo Maleus to stop the demon's rebirth. Only through the brave actions and misgivings of Canoness Ludmila, the Sororitas Forces commander, did the Sisters of the Bloody Rose recognize that they were fighting loyal agents of the Emperor and serving the interests of chaos. Joining forces with the Grey Knights, the Sisters battled the demonic servitors of the powerful demon, thus enabling Brother Captain Tancred and Justica Alaric to banish the reborn Gargatuloth. And the Threshing Fields, from an unknown date in M41. En route to Ultramar, a fleet of sororitas comprising multiple preceptories of the Bloody Rose stopped on the lone planet in the Thresh system. The halt in their progression was in response to a divine vision received by Sister Assumpta, a sister who had yet to see combat. The sororitas arrayed themselves for war on the utterly lifeless world, and held their positions for a solar day, while the canonesses of each preceptory prayed for guidance. Their holy duty was made clear when the tendril of the Tyrannid Hive fleet, Ouroboros, spewed into the system. The Xenos creatures honed in on the Bloody Rose's position and descended upon the planet in great waves. Swarms of skittering predators were butchered by the Sisters. Squads of sororitas were devoured by ravenous monstrosities, and before long, the barren world was drenched in blood and ichor. Knowing that the Tyranids fed off biomass, the warriors of the Bloody Rose ensured that every corpse, human and Xenos, was burned to ashes. After 6 solar months, the influx of Tyranids into the system ceased, and after 6 more, the last Xenos creature was finally slain. Sister Assumpta was the only member of the sororitas force to survive. The combat doctrine of the Order. The Bloody Rose's precepts of anger have truly brutal results when unleashed upon the battlefield. The Sisters advance with disciplined maneuvers, using weight of fire to gain advantage over a flank, or employing cunning feints to draw their enemy into overcommitting. Then, as soon as the foe is at close range, the Sisters charge, striking at the moment they crash into the enemy lines, and screaming wrathful praise as they give vent to their hatred. Gunstocks are swung with enough force to shatter helms and the skulls within. Chainsaws are driven messily through torsos, then wrenched out and thrust again before the spilt innards hit the ground. The power-armored warriors deliver murderous kicks, punches, and elbows that crack bones and burst organs. But in the flurry of carnage, each sister attacks with practiced precision, her rage only manifesting in the instant of impact before it is once more reined in. After the initial devastating onslaught, the sisters unleash a barrage of point-blank bolt pistol shots into any enemies still standing. The Order's beliefs. From the moment a sister joins the Bloody Rose, she is taught to foster and harness her most violent impulses so that they may be unleashed upon the enemies of the faith. Litanies of heretical deeds are intoned as novitiates engage in combat trials, the tales of spiritual traitors and vile apostates filling the trainees with hatred. Prayers that would be whispered in silence by other orders are bellowed loudly within the Bloody Rose's sanctuaries. In place of contemplative meditation, the sisters learn to light the fires of rage within themselves, even when they are not faced with provocation. Alongside such practices, they also train to focus their anger, for they are taught that to allow oneself to be overtaken by apoplexy is as great a sin as indulging in notions of clemency. Through constant drilling, they learn to unleash their inner hatred only when it is most effective, channeling it with the explosive force of a shot fired from a bolter. The Order of the Bloody Rose believes sheer martial ferocity to be a manifestation of the Emperor's will. They pray to be granted the skill, alacrity, and outrage of their matriarch in battle. Often, a sister facing down a hulking Chaos champion or Xenos monstrosity will glow with rage. Rivulets of energy gather around her into a crackling nimbus. Her eyes become a deep red, and tears of blood streak down her cheeks. She moves with lightning speed, dodging and parrying numerous death blows from her hated foe before landing her own immaculate killing strike. Such miraculous transformations are met with cries of exultation by the recipient's fellow warriors, for they know that Mina's soul is inhabiting the body of that blessed sister. Here are some of the most notable sisters of the Bloody Rose, starting with Saint Mina, who is the patron of the Order of the Bloody Rose. Although this long-dead martyr never led her order in battle, it was founded in her name. She was one of 5 companions of Alicia Dominica, the patron and founder of the ADEPTA Sororitas as a whole. In mid-late M36, she was martyred by a sanguinary cult whilst at prayer in a shrine on Hydrafur. When her body was found along with the shrine, she was surrounded by the corpses of 20 of her attackers, her body covered in their blood. Her personal symbol, the red rose, represents her strong character and her final death. The Canoness, Saint Aspira, the 18th Canoness of the Order of the Bloody Rose, led her sisters against the heretic Denescura and liberated almost 100 worlds from his power with only 1,000 warriors. The cloak of Saint Aspira, worn by the Canoness in life, remains a holy relic of the Order. Although she did not die there, Aspira, the savior of 100 worlds, was entombed on the distant world of Ero, in the Caradrian sector of the Segmentum Tempestus. Over millennia, her tomb became a towering monument, the Reliquary Tower. Following its destruction, her bones have recently been transferred to the Order's convent on Ophelia 7. The Canoness Ludmila, who was the commanding officer of the powerful detachment of Sisters of Battle during the events of the defense of Hive Superior during the 13th Black Crusade. Like other Imperial forces, she had been purposefully misled by the Ordo Malleus, Inquisitor turned traitor, Golik Ren Sar Valinov. The Canoness and her fellow sisters were duped into fighting the Grey Knights detachment under the command of Justica Alaric that was sent to stop the rogue Inquisitor from summoning the demon prince Gargatuloth, the Herald of Siege. Fortunately for the Grey Knights, Canoness Ludmila had heard legends of the silver-clad warriors and recognized them as the loyal servants of the Emperor that they were. She led her fellow battle sisters alongside the Grey Knights in an attempt to atone for her previous error by slaying the traitorous Valinov. Unfortunately, the rogue Inquisitor was protected by a conversion field, which absorbed her shot, and then she was slain in the subsequent hand-to-hand combat. The relics of the Order. First, Beneficence. Now, this fearsomely savage chainsword is lauded amongst the Order for its perfection of weight and the deepness of its pious bite. As the deep red armor of its wielder plunges ferociously into dense knots of faithless idolaters, Beneficence sends arterial sprays across the battlefield with each cut of enemy flesh. Terrified mutants and witches fall before its blessing, as ground won for the Emperor is consecrated in sweeps of viscera. And of course, the cloak of Saint Aspera, who led her battle sisters in a war of faith that liberated nearly 100 worlds from the grip of the blasphemous tyrant Denescura. At the inception of the war, she was presented with a magnificent cloak blessed in the ecclesiastical palace of Terra. Whilst this, in itself, marked the cloak as a treasured relic, small shards of the Emperor's own armor were woven into it to ward away the blows of the enemy, elevating it to a sacred garment of incomparable spiritual significance. Saint Aspera wore the cloak throughout the War of Faith, striding into the fray heedless of her own safety, secure in her unwavering knowledge that the Emperor protects. The Order's appearance. The Order of the Bloody Rose's vestments and power armor are primarily a bright blood red, with black vestments on the outside and pure white within. The Bloody Rose's weapons are the same black as their vestments. The Order badge. The badge of Saint Mina and her followers is a red rose, with prominent thorns, representing her nature. Behind the rose are crossed 2 knife blades, dripping in blood, symbolic of the circumstances of her martyrdom.